So you have this amazing feature in, I think it's in the Pro version, where you can say, I want to find somebody who is close to me. So it's possible even to meet in real life. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a niche language, so I haven't managed yet to find somebody who would meet with me consistently. But that's a bit of a small personal project I have, and every once in a while I check again to see if maybe somebody has come up who is willing to do an exchange between Bosnian and German or any other language I speak.
Tandem community is growing every day, so it's always nice to go back and see if some new learners are always popping up. So I just say, like, be courageous and like it will come. Just so don't feel bored.
I just have to try again.
But coming back to the language parties, like in your perspective, what makes the language party, at least in the system, like such a effective way to practice languages? Like,
I think one aspect of language learning that's a bit overlooked is when you're at this level where you can speak a little bit, but you're not fluent yet, you will have a hard time communicating with native speakers. And it can be actually quite rewarding to talk to other people who are learning a language. So in a language party, I can go and I can meet other people who learn the language and who are maybe a little bit better than me, but not super advanced or not fluent native speakers. Because for native speakers, it's always a bit difficult also to adapt their language to somebody who is at A2 level or B1 level or something. Some people are good at that, usually those who have learned languages themselves, but some people really struggle with that, and then it's hard and it's very frustrating for a language learner. So I think this is really cool that you can just log in, you can see, oh, there's a party maybe about the topic also that I'm interested in, ideally, and then you can just practice, and that's really, really valuable.
Yeah. So maybe to give a bit of a background for those who don't know language parties and are asking themselves like, why are they talking about partying all the time?
oh, I love to party. I could go for a language party.
So it's basically audio rooms, and you have a speaker section and a listener section, and you always have a host who decides what's the topic and the languages you're talking in. And then, Werner, for example, has these Q&A sessions where he's the host. You can be one of the listeners, and whenever you have a question for Werner, you can just raise your hand, you can come up to the speaker section, and you can ask your question. And you can talk to each other as well, to everybody else who's in the speaker section. And then for the listeners, it's a bit like a live podcast. So what you are all doing here, you could also do in the app, in the language parties. Just listen to people speaking. And you're right, Werner, sometimes you just meet what I usually call a study buddy, like people who study the same language as you, maybe on a bit of a different level, but you have the possibility when you're usually learning alone and autodidactic way to finally meet somebody who learns that language too.
And in general, one thing that is very useful, at least not only in languages, but also any type of learning, is the ability to like teach back what you learn. Even if you're not completely fluent, the ability to go to somebody that's maybe it's a little bit less like fluent than you, and being able to teach them to it is going to make remembering all of the rules or remembering all of the mechanics of the language a lot better. This works not only for languages, it works also for any sort of learning. It could be even math, for example, but it's especially good, I think, in languages because it really does give you the test, like the internal test, not an actual test. Don't get me wrong. There's no grades, at least. I don't know. Like, no, there's no grades. Okay, not yet. But in general, like, it's an internal test to know, like, if you actually remember things and aren't just going on autopilot, or maybe your autopilot is that good that you can just freely talk in your language without even knowing how good you are. Like, it's a very fantastic tool, I think, in my opinion, to get that upper hand. And coming from someone that has hosted many parties before, for the people that maybe wanted to start their own language party, like, what is your experience hosting a language party?
Well, it feels a bit scary at first, of course, because you know that there are a lot of people there, and maybe they have expectations, and you can't see them. That's a bit of an interesting experience also. So you have to rely on what you hear, which, like, for listening comprehension, that's very good, of course. But when you're the host, then it's a bit like, scary also at the beginning. But I mean, you get into that, and once you realize that people are nice and talk back and ask questions or react to what you're saying, then it's really fun, actually.
it's one of the most, I think, so like if someone starts teaching or anything, it's one of the best experiences being someone engaged that interacts with you, because sometimes when you're coming from the student, sometimes you feel scared of asking questions because you're like, oh, am I ruining the day, or like, am I making the other students angry? Or this happens a lot in universities, at least when I was from, where people were scared of asking questions because everybody's like, oh, really, you're gonna waste our time asking a question, a dumb question? But no, it's one of the greatest things, especially from teachers. I would assume so, because I'm no teacher, but I would assume that receiving those questions and the feedback on anything, it would be such a rewarding experience.
And feedback is a good point here, because the next question is actually, do you receive or have you received any feedback from the participants? Like, which effect did your language parties have on them, on the learners?
Well, I mean, I don't know so much about long-term effect, of course, but no, I do hear people who say that this does help them. Also, this format, not just of a Q&A that I've been involved in, but like the more traditional language parties, if I can call them that, where they can practice languages. That this is just a low-key way of getting your weekly dose of speaking practice, actually. So that is quite valuable.
Do you think like social events similar to language party can sometimes be even more effective than a normal lesson? And if so, like, why?
Well, I wouldn't say like more effective. I think they are more complementary to each other, because in a lesson you have a different goal. Ideally, if you have a good teacher, you will get feedback on your pronunciation, you will get feedback on maybe mistakes you keep making, you will get advice on how to study. A language party cannot give you that, obviously, because there are other students basically who are meeting, and usually it's not the format, or there might not even be an expert present who can give you feedback. But that's not the point of these parties. It's more that you have just the experience of actually using the language, and that is super important, and it gets quite expensive if you want to do that with a personal tutor. So it's much more accessible if you do it through a language party, and eventually that is just what you need. So I tell people always, when you practice a language, you can also practice being on your own. It's like you want to play the piano, you can practice without anybody listening to you. You just need to practice. Of course, sometimes you need feedback, and it's more fun and thus more motivating to do it with other people. So that's where I believe the language parties come in, actually, to give you this experience, or to give you, as the Norwegians would say, going back to this false friend we have, to give you the fartstid. That's like a nice expression from Norwegian. It comes from seafaring, actually. It means the experience of having traveled. As you know, when you want to be a ship's officer, you need to have traveled so and so many miles, and you need to have that experience. And that's something that got into the general language, that you just have the fartstid, experience of using the language.
My resolve is very low right now. I hear fart and I'm like, that's funny. I'm sorry, I apologize. Sorry for all the Norwegian speakers out there. It's gonna take me a while before I
But it's probably a word you will remember.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I will absolutely remember.
That's the power of learning in context.
Yeah. Hey, it's working. And it's interesting because like we talked about like these social events and like comparing to normal lessons, but what about the story-based aspect that you have created? Like, have you found some synergies between language parties and specifically the storybook aspect, or like the story-based textbooks that you have developed so far?
Well, the courses cannot give you this speaking experience, so this is something that you have to get from somewhere else. So again, I encourage people to practice on their own. I tell them you can talk to your teddy bear. That's actually very effective. He's not going to judge you, but he's also not going to reply to you and not give you feedback. Exactly. So that's a bit of a disadvantage. So once you're ready to actually use the language with somebody else, then I think that's very often the next step. And also for many people, I mean, that's also an aspect of language learning that is overlooked very often. Especially as adults, we are scared of using a foreign language. That's normal. It's intimidating to talk to native speakers. And very often, it's much less intimidating to talk to somebody else who also is learning a language. So Instead of sitting at home and studying for months and months and years and never daring to speak, it might be just the next natural step to go and say, okay, I'm going to join a language party where there are other people who are at my level or maybe a little bit better, but who are also not perfect, or they're not native speakers, definitely. So that I get this into this, and that I can also work a little bit on that fear, because once you realize, oh, okay, I've done that and I could understand a bit and I could say something, then this fear will eventually also lessen.
Yeah, it's a great middle ground. Like a lot of people just think that you have to immediately go in. It's like remind me of people in my family that are like, we're trying to learn languages like French. It's like, oh, let's go to Paris and test the French. Bad idea. I don't know why you wanted to do that. Now we're all embarrassed. Sorry. It's like, so like, yeah, learning with natives, of course, it's extremely good. Like I'm not like, it's a fantastic way to kind of like get that extra step. But some people don't have that courage to go immediately, and finding people that are in the same skill level, it's always nice, because you feel like you're not gonna be judged by failing. You're not gonna be like, you're comparing your skills rather than like justifying your skills or like demonstrating that you can do it. It's more like, I'm actively trying to learn. And of course, some natives are very available on Tandem to teach those people that are learning it. It's not necessary that you need to have the super mega high level to even start talking to a native. That's the beauty of language exchange. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the cool thing, that when you can find someone for a one-on-one exchange, then also the dynamics are different. When you're one-on-one with somebody and you know that this is a native speaker, and you know that, of course, I'm just at the beginning level, and of course I'm nervous, but I'm not that nervous. It's not like I'm feeling I'm giving a speech in front of a classroom.
Exactly.
There's just one person knows that I'm just starting out, that I'm going to make mistakes. So it's a much more intimate setting, and it's much less scary. But when you're in a group, I think it's really hard. So therefore, I think the language parties are the place to go, where you can get something done with this fear of meeting several other people.